growing weary of running from room to room, practicing one-tooth insurance-driven dentistry? Then stay tuned for the latest episode of The Lionhearted, where Dr. Stephen Rasner will hand you the blueprint for what many call the gold standard of general practice dentistry.
Hi everyone, it's Dr. Steve Rasner. Welcome to 2019. I don't even know if I'm supposed to say things like that. In fact, I've done all this podcast thing on the fly. I haven't read how you're supposed to do it. I'm just doing what I do. Hopefully it resonates with a bunch of you and I'll feel compelled to keep doing it. But welcome to the new year. I think I'm downloaded now in over 10 countries. And we'll see where this goes in 2019. A couple things I want to do a little differently is I'm going to make it a little shorter because I'm picturing that most of you don't even see me, that you're just listening on the way to something. And, let's assume that for your longer drives and your over 30-minute things, you're probably listening to music and stuff like that. So just a brief tad shorter, perhaps. And I also want to be really specific. Like I'm thinking, if I'm listening to this, I want to take away just a couple things every time I speak. And remember what my agenda is here. I've been a practicing dentist now for 38 and a half years. And my, according to many people, I've got this really successful establishment. And I've spoken about that on many levels, from clinical to the business side of things, for about 20 years. So I'm taking a stab at this on my own. And so here we go. Some takeaways with regard. Remember my email, and I really would like you to start emailing me. Some of you in other countries, what are the topics there that are compelling to you? It's easier for me to run off of a subject if I know it's compelling to you or to a bunch of listeners. My email is my name. It's Dr. Rasner. I know this is laughable. It's DRRASNER@AOL. And if you write to me, I really will respond something specific that you may have and give you my honest opinion. If you're listening today, why are you listening? Is it a Saturday where you're at? Is it a Friday after a work week, wherever you are? I know why you're listening. You're listening because you want to be happy. You want to be happier than you are right now. And I'm just one of a million droplets in an ocean that perhaps you're turning to right now in your life to maybe give you a pearl or two that can turn it around. We all want to be happy. But I can get very specific with you right now because we're all in the dental profession. So what is it that has made me happy or makes me the most satisfied in my profession as I go along? And there's two things to me, and that's what I'm going to be very specific about today. And the two things are, and think about this, I don't know how, when was the last time you listened to something and you heard it and it really excited you about the possibility of making a serious change in your life, whether it was accumulating more revenues or income or savings, or about getting fit, a way that you turned on to somebody that really made you believe that if you listened to them, this would work, or something that made you excited. So the two things I'm going to say today, I just think are just so obvious to all of us if you're going to be a practicing dentist. And the first is being excited about what you do each day. So, and then the second one, which I'm going to speak of today as well, is being more flush with money, with revenues. So that isn't a driving concern when you go to your office on Monday. And I would suspect many of you listening are younger dentists, or even dentists that have been in 20 years and maybe hit a wall. And we've all hit a wall in the last 10 years. Things changed in the insurance part of our industry and impacted us significantly. So all of us had to regroup and redesign how we function in this practice of dentistry to survive and be okay with it. So let me talk about the two things. So the first is being excited. You know, if I made 5 times what I make and I ran a clinic type of structure, or I personally wasn't able to do the procedures that I get to do each day, then I wouldn't be happy. I mean, I just wouldn't be. Now, I know some of you listening, we all have different desires and different bells that make us ring to us. But I have to think that most people that follow me know that I'm a fairly serious clinician. I better be. I've dedicated way over 5,000 CE hours in my career. And that was for no other reason than to then become really feeling good about my skill set. And so the first thing, and I've said this on earlier podcast, one of the things you want to write to me about is asking me for my recommendations of a 2 to 4 year residency. I have 2 years and 4 years, and I really have taken an abundance of continuing education in my career. And I believe I'm able to comment intelligently at what has worked best for me, what was worth my best time, and I can do the same for you as well. So you want to write to me. And you will see that I'll give a 2 to 4 year curriculum of CE, ranging from the things I think will have the biggest impact on your profession, which on your practice, which I've talked about before. And I'll tell you right now, the triad that I believe in is getting an oral sedation permit. And if you have an oral sedation permit, then you must know how to take out teeth atraumatically. And that is a big statement because therein implies that you are skilled at various types of grafting techniques that will be necessary if you're going to take teeth out. And that's a pretty big commitment of time and education right there. And of course, if you're going to do that, this clinician would find it surprising that you wouldn't want to go the next step, of course, and learn how to master or train in surgical implant procedures. So that's my magic triad and I know we all have different buttons that ring for us, but that's what I've done. But here's the real point. Going to work each day, and I get in the first year, I don't know how long it lasts, the first year, 2 or 3, doing a rehab case and doing many of those might be challenging and I don't know, interesting to you. But after a while, I am telling you from my perspective, it's going to get old. And just doing a very short range of procedures. So, the company that I once founded, it's called the Rasner Institute right now, used to be called Realizing the Dream. And it was called Realizing the Dream because to me, think about it for a minute. Here, I've told you in past podcasts that I wasn't exactly a shining star in dental school. Far from it. And because of that, I didn't get into any post-grad schools. I didn't even apply. I just went back to my hometown, and I practiced with my father. So I had no post-dental school training from that. And, of course, I was very limited in the amount of services I could do. And flash forward in my career, maybe 10 years into it, and now today, to go into a dental practice 4 days a week, that when it's on, and it's not always on, I mean, when it's running on all cylinders, when everybody's following the protocols that I have set up, from the front desk to the back, and I get to do, let's say, 3 to 4 major cases, sidelined by a few inserts and, of course, hygiene checks. I mean, let's be real what we are. I'm a general dentist. I'm not a specialist. So that automates that I'm going to be checking hygiene, and I've figured out how to do that in my career, a side booked up against, difficult surgical procedures, and all these details that I've told you over and over again, we will get to, or I'll get to them sooner for you if you write to me. How do I do that? How do I check hygiene when I'm doing major surgeries of 2 and 3 hours? Keep in mind, these patients, this past week, I had a couple patients that weren't sedated. They chose, old school So I don't need that, and I couldn't convince them otherwise. And I got to tell you, there is a huge psychological difference to me in my life at the end of that 8-hour day, what I feel like when I am working tough procedures on somebody sedated who's sleeping and snoring versus somebody who's trying to be a hero and they can be a Charles Bronson and they can take the pain. I got to tell you, it's not nearly the same world. But most of my patients, and I mean 95% of my surgical cases, or even long extended whatever cases they are, a perio case, a crown and bridge case, they are sedated. And it makes a big difference on me. So walking in, and it's not uncommon for me to have a day where I only do anterior endo. Look, you can only do so many things. But to do a couple endos and maybe a free gingival graft and a connective tissue graft somewhere else, a full mouth extraction and a guided placement of 4 to 6 implants. I got to tell you something. I don't know how that could possibly compare to what I did earlier in my career, where I might have done, a number of 3-unit bridges or even a full arch rehab on somebody. So part of being excited is earning the skill sets which are right in front of you. I've made many times mention, which I have in my presentations, as I have on this podcast, the one thing you have in front of you, and the one thing I will tell you to invest from the very beginning. You'll hear me tell you, don't go out and buy the brand new car like I did. Don't go out and get the shore house or the lake house 5 years into owning your primary house because a bank will loan it to you. Don't get yourself in the amazing amount of debt that you're very easily capable of, just like the owner of this podcast did. I got through it because I earned my way out of it. And there are many guys that never produced half or 3/4 of what I produced that are way better set in life. I'm fine because I've earned my way all these years and I'm a worker and all that stuff and I love what I do, so it's not laborious to me. But I'll tell you, there's guys that, my practice has done well over $4 million for over 10 years. I think the highest we ever got was $5 million, and that might have been 2 years ago. There's guys that did, literally half of what I did and probably earned more, and have way more, saved and put away because they were more responsible and how they lived their fiscal life earlier in their years. And look, I'm here, man, not to be a choir boy. I'm here to tell you the lessons I've learned so that maybe it'll resonate with a bunch of you. Why else would I be doing this? These podcasts are obviously free. And so that's what I'm trying to get you to do. Oh, I do have to tell you this. I know I don't say this all the time. I do have a traumatic extraction course in my office where any dentist in the United States or Canada, I don't know about foreign countries because I'd have to appeal to the board or ask the board if that was okay, I don't know, can work on live patients in my office where we have a 2-day extraction course 4 times a year where you can come into my office from California, Florida, Seattle, Canada, obviously not having a New Jersey license, and you can work for 2 days on these sedated patients. I even numb the patients for you because I don't want to waste time you waiting for a block to take. So they're already numbed when you walk in, so you can just master as many extraction, grafting skills as I can arrange for you to have. So yeah, I don't think I created these podcasts just for that. If I did, there's got to be a better way. I think I'm doing these honestly because A, I must enjoy a little bit of it, the feedback I get from it, and I'm hoping to help some of you. So I told you I'd talk about 2 points today. One was being excited about your work. So that's an up to you thing. One thing for sure, if you change nothing, if you just go about biz the way you are now and don't take significant CE, as I've talked about, then it's not going to change. But remember something, you live in a beautiful day and age where there are legit curriculum set out for you, whether it's endo from Buchanan and the other guys on the West Coast, or not just there. And there's abundant places to go to learn surgical implant dentistry. And even what I teach, I don't care where you go, just go and do it and change your skill sets. Or whether it's ortho, it doesn't matter. But you can't do the same procedures and expect for that to sustain you as an individual, as a professional for the next 30-year career. So one way to be happy is to feel fulfilled of the procedures you did that week. And I got to tell you, that is never a question for me. I mean, I go in there and I'm just amazed, whether it's a sinus lift, a ramus graft, or even soft tissue procedures that go along with all the surgical procedures that I've alluded to. Let's talk about the second one for a minute, and that's having enough money, which is obviously an arbitrary statement. I mean, what is enough money? I don't know if I've said this before on these podcasts, but I'll say it today. When people ask me, the rare times they do, what I find to be successful, I find success to be defined as working when you want to work and not working when you don't want to work because you can. We all know those patients, and I know abundant dentists that work 51 and a half weeks a year, 5 days a week, rarely go away. A lot of that is constituted by the lifestyle that they design that I'm trying to get you not to follow. And you understand something, the guy that's talking to you over and over again is a guy that has experienced, living large and getting himself with the shore house and the 2 or 3 expensive cars and things. And it's really a lot better road. And we'll have a whole podcast on the early years coming up soon about exactly what you should be doing if it's not too late. And if it's too late, meaning you've already committed to some of these things, like I did, I can even tell you how to get out of that. But going back to think about this, what is it on this podcast I could say today that could truly bring you increase? I thought about this, obviously, before I came on. Increased revenues. What is it that you could do? And I thought about a lot of things to help you. The one obvious thing is your case presentation skills. In other words, how often do people say yes to you versus, I'll think about that, I really want to do that, I'm going to get to that this summer, upcoming summer, or right after the holidays. That is never case acceptance to me. That is, you didn't get the case. At least you didn't get it that day. Now, I am speaking to you on the first week of 2019, which means I worked 3 days this week. New Year's Day and Thursday and Friday after. And we collected over $100,000. And I'm not telling you that happens every week, and that certainly doesn't happen this time of year often. But that would never have happened if I didn't have the protocols in place that I'm about to share with you that I have. So what are some of those protocols? Well, treatment acceptance begins at the first phone call, because it begins with a patient that's coming into you, to your office for the first time, that knows that you're going to do a full exam no matter why they called. And again, I've given you my address. You need the verbiage for that. If you don't feel shy about writing to me about these things, because it's not everybody has this. Okay? They know coming in. Look, I don't get the same amount of new patients I got in 1980 or even close to that. So these patients, I can't afford to have set aside time for a new patient only to hear him tell my hygienist, I don't want all that. I just want the one tooth filled that I called about. That's never happened in my office and hasn't happened for years, because that's not the practice I want. I have that right, so do you. And that is never a good idea. It is never, in my opinion, it's one man's opinion, to appease the patient with a restoration on the one. Yeah, you can put a temporary filling in it once they've committed to whatever needs that they have. So every patient coming into me knows that they're going to have a comprehensive exam. In my office, the whole exam lasts. Again, I have extra rooms, and there's too many conversations to have in one podcast. I have the luxury that if it ran over an hour, which sometimes it does, sometimes it's an hour and a half, 2 hours. I also have the personnel that can fill in for me when I go back to do treatment, and I'm not stuck or sitting in that brand new room, obviously, for an hour or an hour and a half. You know, that's one of the benefits of listening to me and listening to a podcast like this, because I always say everything counts. So when I have a team together with me who averages over 20.2 years, when you count up all their years with me, obviously they get it, they know the protocols, and somebody can step in for me and do this or that at a certain point if I'm needed back in a room, because a new patient visit went over the normal amount of time. But one of the key factors is I set myself up for success by doing many things coming in. One is they know they're getting a complete exam. And if that leads to nothing, which it often does, you know, I don't ever need or are implying to you, I'm not the dentist podcast to listen to swipe out old silver fillings that there's nothing wrong with other than they're silver, but there's no decay around them. They're just ugly, and there probably is some slow-moving recurrent caries in some of these teeth. I get it. But I'm not that guy. I don't have to do that. I told you on an earlier podcast the 5 factors that I look at. And, you know, if I look at those 5 factors, from their occlusion to their missing health to their periodontal health, and the other couple things I go over, I don't have to look for problems. They're either there or they're not there. Number 2, and I've said this to you, I highly encourage you to start next week on trying to get the significant other to come to this visit. And again, write to me, Dr. Rasner at AOL, for exact verbiage if you're not comfortable with that. You're not going to get 100% of those folks that'll say yes, but it's absolutely 50 to 60 to 75% on certain parts of the year in my office. And again, that's if they indicated significant need. Remember, you are who you are. I'm kind of an oral sedation practice after all these years. And these patients are often haven't gone to a dentist in many years. They know they have a lot of needs, and thus they fall into that category that I just alluded to. And that category is they have a lot going on, and it's better to... so let me just say what we say basically. We say that 4 eyes and 4 ears hear the doctor better than 2. And I've been with him a long time. This is Michelle, my new patient coordinator. And I can tell you one thing I have no question about. You, the patient, will save time and money if the doctor looks at your whole mouth. And if you do have other people with you, you'll make better decisions. So, you know, they're kind of getting the flavor of what this is before they even get to me. And I think that's how it should be. You know, it just still amazes me how many dentists do not put a lot of energy and emphasis into this part of the new patient experience. You know, so it's just so ordinary to me that is what we do. You know, so I can tell from the time already that this is one subject about being happy, generating more money, and doing challenging procedures. By the way, I don't know if any of you have noticed, I have temporaries in my mouth, in the front of my mouth, and I can tell that the contours are off because it's affecting my speech. So if you think I'm in the middle of the day right here, I'm certainly not intoxicated, but I sound a little different even to myself. So here's what I'm going to stop with. I'm going to give you a summary of what I said today. Those of you that are on a running mat somewhere right now or almost at the place you were going to go to in your car. The 2 tips for today to be happier than you are is to Set yourself up starting 2019 to do challenging procedures ASAP by entering into a curriculum, a continuum of CE that will train you to do procedures beyond what you're doing right now. Okay? That's number one. Number two, we started to begin to talk about how not worrying about finances, about not worrying about payroll, and not worrying about whether you're going to get this case or not get this case, because you've put together a solid formula for financial success in your practice. How much that can, it's a wonderful thing not to worry about those things. And I certainly know that because I remember when I did worry about them. I really do. And I know some of you listening so badly don't want to be in that situation right now. And even if you've made the mistake and you've bought maybe one car too many and you bought the shore house, I can still fix this for you. But we're going to continue this with our next podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Dr. Rasner at AOL. Check out the Rasner Institute for my courses, and thanks for listening to the Lionhearted.